Good morning, students. Welcome to English class. Today we are going to read a new poem, The Fog, written by W.H. Davis. You will find this poem in page number 92 of your new Gulmohar reader book. Let us know something about the poet. William Henry Davis was born in Newport, Wales, which is a country in United Kingdom. He is a poet and writer. He was born on 3rd July 1871 and he expired on 26th September 1940. His poems are realistic and often dealt with themes of life and its hardships. He wrote in a simple and direct style. His 20 collections of poetry include The Soul Destroyer and Other Poems, Nature Poems and Others, Foliage, The Birds of Paradise and Other Poems. He also wrote two memoirs, The Autobiography of a Supertramp and Young Emma. He also wrote four novels which include The True Traveler, The Adventures of Johnny Walker, Tramp. William Henry Davis received an honorary doctorate from University of Wales and is honored by a plaque at the Church House in Newport. A selection of his papers and manuscripts is held at the National Library of Wales. Now let us know something about the poem. The poem Fog was published in 1913 in his collection called Foliage. In this poem, we find that a blind man leads the poet or the speaker of the poem through fog, which shows that one who is handicapped in one domain may well have a considerable advantage in another. This kind of poem of William Henry Davis earned much praise for him because of its simplicity. Now, before we start reading this poem, we should have a clear idea of what is fog. Fog is actually just condensed water vapor close to the ground. To understand fog, we first need to tackle humidity. The air around us can hold a certain amount of water vapor or water in a gaseous state. As more and more water fills the air feels more humid. The amount of water vapor in the air is known as humidity. Now, when the water vapor completely saturates the air, that is, the air cannot hold any more water vapor, the water droplets starts to condense or turn back from gas to liquid. These droplets of liquids are suspended in the air and appear as a thick haze known as fog, as you can see in this picture. Now this fog has the ability to reduce the visibility. How? Because it is so thick, it appears so thick that one cannot see anything in front of him or her in presence of fog. As you can see in this picture, you cannot see anything in it. So if the fog is very thick, one cannot see anything. So keeping this in mind, let us now read the poem. I saw the fog grow thick, which soon made blind my ken. It made tall men of boys and giants of tall men. It clutched my throat. I coughed. Nothing was in my head except two heavy eyes like balls of burning lead. And when it grew so black that I could know no place, I lost all judgment then of distance and of space. The street lamps and the lights upon the halted cars could either be on earth or be the heavenly stars. A man passed by me close. I asked my way, he said. Come, follow me, my friend. I followed where he led. He rapped the stones in front. Trust me, he said, and come. I followed like a child. A blind man led me home. So, this was the poem. Now, let us take up one stanza at a time and try to understand it. So, the first stanza. I saw the fog grow thick, which soon made blind my king. It made tall men of boys and giants of tall men. So, in the very first stanza, we see the effect of thick fog on the speaker's vision. In the first stanza, the poet talks about how the fog grew thicker by every passing time, and soon it became impossible for him to see or understand anything. It completely blinded his senses and made him disoriented. As he looked around through the fog, he found that young boys appeared much taller, like men, and tall men appeared huge, like giants. So, here we see how the fog affected or have put an effect on speaker's vision. Second stanza. In this stanza, we see the physical effect of the fog on the speaker, how it affect the speaker physically. What we see? It clutched my throat, I coughed. Nothing was in my head except two heavy eyes like balls of burning lead. So the fog slowly started having an effect on him. He felt as if the fog was clutching onto his throat, that is, holding his throat very tightly, like strangling him. And this choked him and he started coughing. His mind became empty and his eyes felt hot and heavy. He could clearly feel the heat in his eyes, and this burning sensation of his eyes is compared with the burning of lead, which is a kind of a metal. So, here we are getting one simile. Simile means comparison between two things. Here, eyeballs or the eyes of the speaker is compared with the burning lead. Now, the third stanza. In this stanza, the poet shows us the mental effect of the fog on the speaker. What kind of mental effect the fog gives to the speaker. And when it grew so black that I could know no place, I lost all judgment then of distance and of space. So, as the fog grew thicker, it became darker around the poet. The poet, at that point of time, lost all his power of judgment of space and distance. What does that mean? The speaker or the poet was not able to find his way or directions, and he could not ascertain the distance to his home. He was not able to gaze all these things, that how far I have to go, which direction I have to go. He could not think about, or he could not understand that, and that's why he is telling that I lost all judgment, because the fog is so thick and it became so dark around him. Now, the fourth stanza. Here, the poet describes the locality or the scenario around the speaker. The street lamps and the lights upon the halted cars could either be on earth or be heavenly stars. So the street lamps and the lights of the cars, and these cars are halted. Halted means they are stopped, because for driving the visibility has to be clear. Whatever you are seeing in front, the road in front of the driver has to be clear. Only then he can move the car, or he can drive the car forward. So due to the presence of this thick fog, the driver also could not see anything, and he is compelled to stop the car, because if he moves forward in that way, in the presence of that thick fog, naturally he will meet an accident, which he definitely want to avoid, and that's why the car is stopped. So the lights are on, although the lights of the halted cars are on, and the lights of the street lamps and the light of this halted car around the speaker started, it seemed like the heavenly lights. He could not make out, or he could not understand whether these lights were on the earth or they were actually from the stars in the sky. So there is a confusion. So because he is accustomed to looking at the lights in one particular way, the people who can see like us, we know how it looked like, how a light of a car look, and how a light of how street lights look, we know this. But when our vision is blurred, when we cannot see anything due to this presence of fog, these things appear strange to us, like this street lights, or this light of the car, these headlights of the car. This seems very strange to us, and that is why the poet is saying that I could not understand whether they are actually in the earth, or it is these lights are coming from something somewhere else outside the earth, from sky. Now the fifth stanza and the sixth stanza. So in such situation, the poet or the speaker of in this poem, he realized that a man passed by him close. That means a man was passing by him, and in that situation where the speaker is feeling very lost, naturally when he felt presence of someone, naturally he would ask for help. That's what we do whenever we feel lost, whenever we feel in a problematic situation, we try to seek for help. And this man too, when he felt that somebody is passing by him, he asked for help from that person. And what help did he ask? He asked his way to his home. To which this kind gentleman responded, "Come, follow me, my friend." So you can see that this man is very kind, and he is addressing this speaker as my friend, and he offered to help the speaker to reach home when he asked the way. I followed where he laid. So holding the man by his arm, the poet followed him blindly. So this speaker wanted to come out of this situation, and so when he got someone to help him, he followed him without questioning anything. He just followed him. Sixth stanza. He rapped the stones in front. "Trust me," he said, "and come." I followed like a child. A blind man led me home. So, in the sixth stanza, we see that this man had already brought the speaker to his home. So, on reaching his home, the man rapped on its stone walls. Rapped means to strike, to hit someone, to hit something, or to tap something with stick or anything like that. Now you see that in this picture also you can see that the blind man is helping the speaker. So the blind man always takes his stick with him. And if you have seen, I am sure that you have seen a blind man walking in the street, and they use their stick to find their way. And how they do it? They tap the floor with that stick. I am sure you have, this is a very common image in our mind. We have seen, all of us have seen this, that blind man a blind man has a stick with him, and he tap the floor or any surface in front of him to get the idea that what is there in front of him, so that he can walk forward or avoid that space. So here too, upon reaching the house, the blind man tapped on the stones, or hit or struck the stones. "Trust me," he said, "and come." I followed like a child. A blind man led me home. So the poet did what he was told by the blind man. He followed like a child. He followed like a child and went inside the house. And once inside, he discovered that the man who had guided him to safety, or who guided him safely to his home, was blind himself. So that was the poem. I hope you have understood it. So if we have to gist this poem now, we see that the poet is trying to go home. However, he is unable because there is a thick fog and he could not find his way. He later describes the thick fog, and he saw a man who helped him find his way. Once the poet reached his home, he then realizes that the man who helped him was blind. Now, what message does this poem give us? This poem says us that we should not look down upon or disrespect disabled and handicapped people. Instead, we should give them their due respect. Irrespective of their disability, physically challenged people have done great things and reached great heights. So we should not judge people who are disabled on the basis of their disability. Like we found in this poem too, that the man whose all senses are fine, completely okay, is helpless as his vision got blurred due to the presence of thick fog, whereas the blind man whose world is darkness led him home successfully. Thus, apparently, the so-called normal man became disabled in such natural condition, and the so-called physically challenged proved his ability and helped the other. This poem also says us that faith and trust are blind. So that was all for today. Now, here are some questions that you have to do and send the homework through email by 4/7/2020. Thank you.